A snowstorm turned a $500 million defense grid into a blindfold. Ukraine knew it and waited. This is the Blizzard Phantom, a $20,000 UJ-22 drone package that slipped below Nebo-M, danced through Kasuka-4 jamming, and still found its target when comms were jammed. In this video, we unpack the exact flight profile, the AI handoff to inertial navigation, and the decoy wild Hornets that flooded the S-400 with phantom echoes. Keep watching for the methane ignition chain that made a gas plant fold from the inside. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. So why did a system built to spot supersonic threats start missing something that costs less than a pickup truck? The answer sits in what the grid was designed to do and what it rarely trains for. Nebo-M and the S-400 stack watch the high sky. Their sweet spot is fast, hot, and tall. Aircraft with big radar signatures, cruise missiles with consistent velocities, and ballistic arcs that paint clear tracks across multiple bands. They excel at long-range cueing and precision intercepts when the target obliges by staying within those envelopes. A UJ-22 type platform refuses to play by those rules. It trades speed for endurance, flies where Earth meets air, and leans on low-altitude masking. It doesn't light up the sky, it hides in it. In heavy snow, the math gets cruel. Radar beams bounce off the ground and buildings, then re-enter the receiver from odd angles. That's multipath. The return mixes with the real signal and smears the picture. Snow adds millions of tiny scatterers, each reflecting a little energy back. The system raises its detection threshold to ignore the mess. Low and slow targets sit right on that noise floor, blending into streaks of clutter that look like weather. On paper, electronic warfare should clean this up. A Kasuka-4 class jammer pushes noise into the band's drones used for control and navigation, strangling GPS and data links so the pilot loses authority. The defense wins if the intruder is flying by remote and needs satellite fixes to stay upright. But that's the assumption the attacker planned against. You've seen this winter pattern before. Small airframes skim tree lines, slip over frozen rivers, and pop up right where point defenses have seconds to react. The operators aren't clairvoyant. They're using terrain to force short detection ranges and bad look angles. Even a radar that can track a fighter at hundreds of kilometers struggles with a slow profile sneaking inside the first few kilometers in a snow squall. By the time a local battery sees it, the engagement window is so tight that a single hesitation wastes the shot. Now look at the money side. An S-400 battery protects vast airspace, but it does it with missiles that cost orders of magnitude more than a disposable drone. Each intercept burns funds, maintenance hours, and crew tempo. Even if a cheaper short-range missile is used, the network that cues it, radars, generators, masts, vehicles, demands constant upkeep. A $20,000 airframe with a simple warload doesn't care. It only has to be right once. That cost per engagement gap changes behavior. Commanders start conserving shots, waiting for higher confidence tracks. That pause is the opening. The attacker also moves faster in the lab. Open source hardware means sensors swap in hours, not fiscal years. Commercial airframes become test beds for new pitot tubes, cameras, and RF front ends. Field techs flash firmware on the flight line to tune filters or change data link hop sets. While procurement writes memos, the drone team pushes a new navigation routine that tolerates jamming 5 decibels worse than last week. But what happens when the snow thickens, GPS goes dark, and the control link turns to mush? That's where the budget machine stops behaving like a remote toy and starts acting like a pilot. The autonomy pivot takes over. An onboard processor fuses inertial data, airspeed, and preloaded route geometry, correcting drift with cues that don't depend on satellites. It's not guessing in the blizzard. It's carrying its own map in motion. Next up, the Blizzard playbook that made weather a cloak and the route built to break under jamming, until the logic inside the airframe refused to quit and the target line came back into focus. So how do you plan a route expecting to lose GPS, data link, and even the horizon, and still put metal on target? You start by accepting the blackout as part of the plan, not a failure mode. The Blizzard Phantom profile runs at hedge height, inside a snowband dense enough to smear radar returns, and it threads along river cuts, rail embankments, and low valleys that create dead ground for long-range sensors. The route is built with margins for wind drift and timing gates that match radar rotation cycles. Every leg has a pre-computed escape angle if a local search radar lights up. Aggressive jamming is assumed. Visibility is expected to drop to a moving fog. The craft's job is simple. Hold the clutter band and stay predictable to itself, not to the defender. Kasuga 4 class electronic warfare then tries to cut the nerves. Wideband noise hammers the control link. Deception tones scrape at the GPS receiver. Snow loads the pitot and the camera lens. That's where timing and signal discipline matter. The operator uses short control bursts in narrow windows, then goes quiet to avoid detection. When the signal fades below a set quality threshold, the plan doesn't stall. It shifts modes the way a pilot would flick to instruments in cloud. The loss of link is not an emergency. It's a trigger the flight computer expects and welcomes. The comms plan rides on frequency agility with conservative hop rates and error-corrected packets. It's robust, but intentionally fragile at the edge. That sounds odd until you see the logic. If jamming is thick, the link should die decisively, not hang half alive and inject lag. A clean cut hands the aircraft to onboard logic without a tug of war. The autopilot reads the last good commands, validates them against the route library, and locks into autonomy with a clear set of priorities. Altitude discipline first, then timing, then terminal aim point. Under the hood, an AI-grade processor fuses inertial data with airspeed, compass, and barometric cues. Inertial systems drift, so the code budgets that drift across each leg and resets it with terrain cues the weather cannot hide. Rail crossings that create magnetic anomalies. Bridge decks with distinct radar or LiDAR ranges at low angles, and known powerline corridors that set lane boundaries. The processor treats each cue like a breadcrumb. It updates the state estimate and keeps the nose down in the clutter band while snow pelts the airframe. Mid-route, 2 decoys kick free on a programmed schedule. They climb and radiate just enough to look like problem children. One flashes a crude RF signature. The other presents a thermal plume spike. Defenders look up and out. Tracking cells start vetting those tracks while the main craft drifts under their scan volume, riding the lowest viable altitude and passing perpendicular to the search patterns. Integrated air defenses struggle here, especially in weather. Small, slow movers create false returns that look like blowing debris or ground vehicles. Winter adds ducting and scatter that spread those ghosts across sectors. During recent conflicts, we've seen defense pictures saturate under mixed small targets, with operators hesitating for a clean ID before committing interceptors. The delay isn't incompetence. It's the system protecting itself from fratricide and waste. With guidance holding through the whiteout, the last question is how to break a hard sight that shrugs off glancing hits. The answer is a focused charge shaped to push a narrow jet into a seam. Valve housings, expansion joints, or panel interfaces, where a small breach vents gas and sets up ignition. The warhead does not have to shatter the facility. It only needs to open the wrong cavity and let physics do the rest. Now the clock and the thermodynamics take over, and that's where heating season turns a single puncture into something much bigger. Weather, cost, and autonomy didn't just coexist, they compounded. A premium air defense stack trained for fast, high-altitude threats met a low, patient machine that used snow as cover, onboard logic as a pilot, and a price tag that forced hesitation. That asymmetric mix is shaping the next wave of counters. Both sides are racing. More radars, more electronic warfare, more interceptors, all tuned to find and swat small drones in bad weather because critical infrastructure depends on it. If you want deeper breakdowns of how software, sensors, and timing reshape grids and battlefields, subscribe now. When storms roll in, the cheapest platform may hold the clearest path.